Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Poets Reacts.
Woo, woo, woo. Hi, everyone.
Mark is apparently not here right now, but with us today is Squigs. Yo,
Hey, everyone.
Squigs.
Hey, Squigs.
Just to show you that nobody has a monopoly on having guitars.
Yes, Lawin.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Marrisa.
Welcome, everyone, to the Poets Reacts. We're so excited to have you. I'm Marrisa. I am a poet, spoken word artist from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Remember, as you are watching the show tonight, make sure you type stuff in the chat, ask questions, comments. We love interacting with you. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow. We are everywhere social media is. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, of course, right? Hopefully we'll be on some other things soon. Squigs.
Hey everyone, I'm Squigs. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I usually am a herald for the Poetry News. I'll be standing in for Mark for this episode. Thank you everyone for having me. Hope to be able to have a great show. And after me, is it Kem? It's Kem.
Yes, it's me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kemlyn. I am your Singapore, Arizona connection. I am so excited to be here with you all. I am a multidisciplinary artist. And what the heck is that? It's because I mix media with everything. You name it, whether it's visual art, performance, music, or spoken word and written word. I do it because I like messing around. All right. So glad to have Squigs with us. Thank you for being here. And without further ado, send in the poem. There was such inexpressible sorrow in the music in the garden. The dish of oysters on ice smelt fresh and sharp of the sea. He said to me, I am a true friend. He touched my dress. There's no passion in the touch of his hands. This is how one strokes a cat or a bird. This is how one looks at a shapely horsewoman. There's only laughter in his eyes under the light gold of his eyelashes. The violin's morning voices sing above the spreading smoke. Give thanks to heaven, you alone with your love for the first time.
I loved that. I think it was written by a woman.
I'm curious. I wonder if we should have a second read.
Yes, let's do it.
Yes, let's do that. Squigs, would you like to do the second read?
Sure. Thank you. There was such inexpressible sorrow in the music in the garden. The dish of oysters on ice smelt fresh and sharp of the sea. He said to me, I am a true friend. He touched my dress. There is no passion in the touch of his hands. This is how one strokes a cat or a bird. This is how one looks at a shapely horsewoman. There is no laughter in his eyes, under the light gold of his eyelashes. The violin's morning voices sing above the spreading smoke. Give thanks to heaven. You are alone with your love for the first time.
You know what this reminds me of? In Alice in Wonderland, the walrus that lures all the baby oysters out of the water to the table, and he sets the table, and he's like gonna wine and dine them, so to speak. And then the character that was with the walrus goes to the kitchen, the chef, and makes the soup or whatever, brings out the soup and the bread, and the walrus has consumed all of the oysters, and he's just like fat and sick, like crying.
So do you think, Marrisa, that this is more predatory than it appears?
Absolutely. Yeah. I absolutely think that this was someone who was conditioning her, and you, at some point, it's wrong, but you don't have the power or the ability to break free from that, especially if it's someone who's been conditioned from an early age. and from a long time, and for adults who they're supposed to trust.
Wow.
So I really think that the use of like the gold in the eyelashes, right? The feeling of the dress, the grief in the garden, the way that this poet was very descriptive. When you're abused, you do not forget those details. Those little things stand out to you for your entire life. And she was very poignant in that abuse. And I can't say it could very well be written by a man. So whoever the poet is, very aware.
A man who was wearing a dress.
Aware but powerless.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's definitely a certain resignation to this conditioning of the idea of love, although you know that there's no tenderness behind it, but this is what it's been built up to be. I definitely love the introduction and the introduction to her senses, how they're calling out to that.
Yeah.
I think there's something to the fact that it's oysters. Oysters being an aphrodisiac and all that. How all the senses seem to be engaged, but are described to be absent. So
it's hollow. It's hollow, absolutely hollow. I just painted a painting, and I feel hollow from it.
Yeah, just like that darkness.
Hollow, like an empty oyster shell.
Yeah. And it's like she's being served up.
Yeah.
And it's just a tragedy.
Yeah.
There was no joy in reading it.
But before we get too far on those, Kemlyn and Squigs, very nice reads. Your voices are amazing as usual. But yeah,
this is a nice refreshment from Mark. I'm sorry, Mark, that you're not here, but like I think we did have.
We love you, Mark.
Yeah, there's a comment here in the chat asking, is it friend zone? Yeah, I don't know. It feels darker than a friend zone, honestly. Definitely, this is a relationship where the involved parties are on different sides of the pool. One is in much deeper than the other. And that's always a formula for tragedy.
Hey, story of my life.
Of course, as Marrisa gets hurt.
Cheers to the deep end and no floaties.
Cheers to the deep end.
Hey, at least we're not alone, right? We can just all drown together.
Okay, but because it is the poet who acts, as a piece, I love it. I love the poem. I love that there's this layers and levels to it that makes it worth talking about. The fact that it's potentially tragic.
The shapely horsewoman.
The shapely horsewoman.
Like, I grew up training horses, right? My undergrad is in agriculture. And so, the shapely horsewoman, it almost, to me, it's almost objectification. I mean, I know you're wanting to use horsewoman as a way to identify maybe there's a whole, this is maybe the only poem I've ever read that said shapely horsewoman, right? So it's not a common way of identifying body style or body type for a woman. Curves, yes. But it almost sounded like fetishy, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having fetishes around that. But in context with all the other things, it seemed to me like almost like she was a commodity, or there was some sort of predatory nature in what he was looking for. I don't know. It kind of
I think it does have those things. I mean, like the comment on the dress, the comment on the oysters, the comment on the
and oysters can have the same mouthfeel as other things on women and men. So, there could be other ties to, I know that was, no, I'm serious, right? If you've ever had an oyster, there could definitely be correlations to that love magic. if it's love. But otherwise, it's just fishy. I had to say that.
You had to go there. You had to go there.
Do we have? Yeah. Oh my
That
God.
just makes
Okay.
like, what
all
the
right.
hell show did I just get on?
Okay. Yeah. And for me, it's like it's because I'm on certain medications right now, and honestly, the thought of oysters and that bitter iodine in my I'm like, this is so gross, just gross. Which might add to my interpretation of my poem because I'm like, oh my God, it's so gross, you know. I almost want to just look at it again. Can we just take a look at it one more time? So who was so sorrowful? It was
The oysters, they were dead. That's
yeah.
why.
And what the fuck? I'm a true friend, and he touched my
And the music
dress.
was
But
sad.
that's what made it very much predatory to me, because
Without
that's how you
passion.
condition.
Yeah. So it's
There's
a
no
power differential. So it's not about love or even passion or
It's about power and control.
It's like
yeah.
a sport.
It's like a sport, like the shapely horsewoman. It's a hunt, it's a tame, and it's a slaughter.
And she's a pet. Oh my God, stroking a cat or a bird.
You know that you are, though. When you're part of that cycle and all your power has been stripped from you and you're conditioned, you know that there's something wrong, but you don't know what to do. I mean, it's very classically that way. I would love to ask this poet, you know, what happened, and tell them that they're safe.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I could just tell them, go back to that time and scoop them up out of that, I would.
Marrisa, you were right. It's by Anna Akhmatova. It's called In the Evening, and it was written in 1914. And I don't think she's going to be around anymore. 1914 is way too early. But
And we're
wow.
still 100 years later, 100 years later, still talking about the same stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And the hollow allocation that this person is her love. Whew.
Most likely she was very young.
But announced by
19.
morning voices. Yeah. So there's all the there's all the built-in irony.
She could have been part of a school or an orphanage or some sort of, place where there were many people, and most young children or growing up into women were exploited. She could have also been part of a trafficking arena.
Or she's paying a debt.
Right. Well, trafficked, yeah.
Yeah.
It says that she's one of the most powerful poets in Russian poetry. But I mean, it was beautifully written, honestly, but so painful.
Very brave, because women in Russia during that time, I don't believe, were praised for writing such work. So I don't know a lot of Russian history, but I would assume during that time, women were not empowered to write such things. So maybe this was
okay. This is where we officially miss. This is the point where we officially miss Mark Fishbein, because he was about 20 years old in 1914. He lived through this. So he might have been able to share a lot of insight. But I think you're generally right, Marrisa. It was a restrictive society, especially at that time. Even though the work existed, it's probably right that it wasn't celebrated as much as it should have been. Yeah, so I think that also speaks a lot about the subtlety of the piece. Yeah, this is not about the bastard was there waiting with his oysters. No, it's not. It's your love, and it's mourning. So all of them subterfuge and the subtext come together very, very nicely.
I just love your commentary.
Thank you,
Lawin.
Anna, from 100 years ago.
I'm just at least glad Lawin's here. Oh, I didn't do it on this show, and then we'll wrap up. So here we go. From one Lawin to another, I am Marrisa Prada. Thank you so much for joining our show tonight. Squigs, you are going to need to get some Lawin glasses. We hope you enjoyed us. Please like, share, subscribe, follow to our channel. We are everywhere social media is. And remember, as we react live to poems we've never seen or heard or read before, we do hope you take action with your pen so that maybe one day we'll be reading your poem. Good night, everybody!